everybody. We are here with the Can You Dig It podcast. Dig deep, dig down, dig in with Jessica Rebello from Unleashed Potential Life Coaching. Hi, Jessica. And Jordan Knock, that's me from the Center for Alignment. We're looking to bring you, really from our two unique perspectives, insights into mental health, emotional awareness, and personal growth. Today's episode, we're really looking to share our stories, give some glimpses into, what led us to coaching. We both have similar trajectories. I'm going to let Jessica kind of take it from here and tell you a little bit about, how she ended up in this realm of coaching and really what makes her tick and why she does this. And Jessica, take it away before I steal all the good words. Go for it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I started my journey as a licensed social worker. I got my master's in social work and I worked at a nonprofit for domestic violence and sexual awareness. And from there, I moved to private practice world, working with mental health, where you and I met. And I learned a lot about what I liked, and I learned really a lot about what I didn't like. And it worked for me for a period of my career. And then COVID came, as it expected all of us. But it made me kind of look and like, is this really what I want to do? Am I feeling fulfilled? Is my purpose being made? And I think I hit so much of a burnout because of the population I was working with. I was really only working with trauma and domestic violence, and I was a trauma therapist. And from there, I was like, I want to kind of take a new approach. And I looked in coaching and I was like, wow, I am a coach in my sessions. And like it spoke to me in a different way more than traditional therapy. So I started Unleashed Potential, and from there it kind of grew. And like now I find my niche and my specialty is I still am a trauma-informed coach, but with that I'm also I like to help with people with their pain, and I like to help people turn their pain into power. And through that, it's, we could have really difficult emotions and we could talk about them, and it can get really dark in our sessions, but there's always a step out, right? There's always something we could do about it. And I guess that's my job with my people, of like trying to help them create one thing, at least a session, of like, where can we go from here? That's right. Kind of my approach. That's how I work with my sessions.
Okay. I kind of missed all that. Can you repeat that? All of that? No, I'm kidding. No, that was great. That was great.
Hey, wait a minute. I don't know if I can say that twist.
Right. That just, so, I love that. I love that story because it just implies a sense of ownership of where you are and where you're at inside yourself, and, really taking what you need for you, taking it, making it happen, doing what
Absolutely.
You need to do for you.
Correct.
And, that's
Absolutely.
a lot of what we're going to talk about.
And I think that's important correct. And I think that's really important for a lot of people. Like, we need to be intentional and create our own destiny, because nobody creates it for us. And I mean, you can, right? But like, I think we need to just take a more direct action approach. And I think you and I both have done that. So we're sharing that with others, how we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have an episode on that, right? Fate versus free will, and, different approaches to that. I mean, we dig deep, right? We're going to get deep. So
Sure do. Do.
The spiritual side of things, it's important. Right. That's for sure.
Now, what's your story? What transitioned you?
Oh, you're turning the tables on me just like that, huh?
Sure am.
Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so
Good.
nervous. What's my story? So, first the dinosaurs came. No, too far back. So I have so much Mel Brooks comedy in me. It's ridiculous. I have a kind of I guess, similar story in the sense that I transitioned from about a decade's worth of mental health counseling work into this coaching work. And for me, in a nutshell, I mean, throughout these episodes, we're going to hear plenty about our stories and what we've been through and the pain we've been through, the trauma we've been through, the healing we've been through, the growth we've been through. That's not today. Right here, we just want to glimpse kind of the transition from what we were doing to what we are doing. Why coaching? And for me, it's very much what's the best word? A projection of myself. As I went from analysis paralysis inside myself, always spinning in circles, doing the same thing, thinking about the same thing, and being really self-aware, but never actually changing my habits. As I went from that to having a serious life experience that forced me to change my habits, I went, in a nutshell, like, oh, counseling doesn't feel right anymore. Like exploring things with people, yes, it's important, it's necessary, it's what I do. Even with my coaching, there's so much exploration. But every single session now, as opposed to when I was counseling, ends with, so what are our action steps? Where is the change? How are we going to drive the change? And again, as I have changed, as I have kind of had to hold myself accountable and push myself to be different, and to, on days where all I want to do is nothing, step up and do what I need to do. On days where I don't want to put in the effort, but I'm writing a book and I have to continue doing it, I force myself to get some writing in and put something on the canvas that day. As I have begun to do that, I'm realizing, the sheer grit that it takes to grow and change. There needs to be some serious accountability. And that's where I think the coaching, and that's what I want to do for people. Help them identify where they've been, where they want to go, and how they want to get there, as opposed to exploring all of it over and over and over again in circles, thinking that that's going to change much other than how I currently feel about it, because I feel good getting it all out. Which there's nothing wrong with that.
I love it.
There's a lot of people at that point. I was there for a long time, and it was necessary to be there.
Absolutely. And I also think it depends what point you are in your life, and like what you are struggling with and what your obstacles are. I think that's also like a depiction of like, should I go see a therapist or should I go see a life coach? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's really about the goal that you want to work on, because both of them serve a great purpose depending on the person and the situation and what they're looking for.
I think that's really well put. I'm actually, let me put you on the spot and return the favor. Karma's a bitch.
Thanks.
What would you say if I said to you, or I asked you the question, what makes a client right for coaching versus counseling, or for counseling versus coaching, having the experience you have in the field, and obviously I'll jump on it if I, feel inspired to. What would you say the differences are, and the key components might be with that?
I think for coaching, I think there needs to be a lot of self-motivation from clients. I think there needs to be an actual want to change and an actual want to grow.
Yeah.
And I think with that mindset, and I do think it's a mindset, I think with that mindset and with that readiness, that person is now a perfect candidate for coaching. I think people, and listen, let's just call it out. Some people just don't want to change, and some people just need their voices to be heard, but they want to stay in the same spot because that spot might be comfortable for them. And that's fine, right? That's not for us to judge. I think somebody in that type of predicament is better for therapy because they have a voice and they want it heard, and they just want to talk about the day-to-day actions and what went on with their world. And that's enough for them. And they feel fulfilled from that session. And I think that type of person, they would benefit more so from therapy.
Right.
I also think if you're bringing in like the mental health components in coaching, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, like we could touch upon some mental health diagnoses, and we could touch upon some symptoms. And I think a lot of us at different times in our lives have symptoms, but that's not our primary focus. Whereas I think therapy, that does become a big focus, maybe not the primary, but that does become, at least in my opinion, a big focus in therapy world.
Yeah, absolutely. We've obviously talked about this plenty. I remember one of the things we talked about too was kind of like, you said readiness before. So I think this kind of lends well toward in that direction. But like level of dysfunction is a big part of it too.
Oh, absolutely.
There are people who, have genuine diagnoses, and the diagnoses are necessary, and they are helpful, and they help direct treatment. And they help people understand things. They help people simplify what's going on with themselves. And I loved that part of the mental health work where you really were able to, people come in with this giant ball twisted up. I think it was like a meme that I saw once. And then they leave therapy and like each string is unknotted, and they're all next, and you can see them perfect. Oh, so that's blue. That's what blue means. Oh, the red string, that's exactly what that means. And you're really able to understand much, much better what's going on inside you emotionally, mentally. And it's not like, and I think you can attest to this too. It's not like people go to therapy and don't change. We're not saying that, because there are so many therapists who bring that exploratory understanding analysis approach, but then bring in, solution focused type of work where there is change, there is goal setting there, and there's, and it's effective, and it works. We've done it.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, countless times. So
I think for client wise, I think you can get a lot out of both. So someone with a distinct, specific diagnosis of, let's say, borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder, something like that. I think to understand the disorder itself, the mental illness, the neurological components, there's chemical components to it, right? Imbalances and whatnot. I think that going to therapy is necessary and totally appropriate, but it can't hurt to maybe include coaching in that, or ask your therapist to focus on change with you rather than just exploration. Or, like take more of a empowered approach to your own therapy and say, well, I want to work on changing ... Something like that. You were going to say something.
I also think it could happen in stages or phases. And I have a specific client I'm thinking of when I'm talking about this is, some people go to therapy first, right? And they uncover experience and they're like, oh, this is why I feel this way. Right? Or like, this is why I'm triggered by this, right? Like I feel like with therapy, there's a lot of exploration and a lot of understanding of like the why piece of it.
Sure.
And I think sometimes when people get that piece of information, they're like, okay, I own that, right? That's mine. I got it. I understand it. And now what do I do with it? And you're right. Some people get that done in a therapy lens, and that's fantastic. But then I think for other people, like they go into more of a coaching realm because that's where more of the nitty-gritty work comes in, the more, direct action approach of like, okay, what do we actually do with this information?
Right. Yeah. And that's what I have seen as well, is the biggest difference. Like with my coaching clients, a lot of them, they know that it's their job to text me every single day what their accountability is. And we're, I call us accountability buddies.
That's awesome.
We're accountability buddies. And, I'll text them what I did. So for me, they know what I'm working on. They know where my focus, I'm very real. I'm very transparent, right? I have my own stuff that I know I need to be staying accountable to. And it helps them to feel empowered, to feel like it's not just a take relationship. They're giving as well. They're able to help me. And I'll text them, physically, exercise, ... was today. Mental exercise, meditated for, read for, wrote for, etc. Spiritual exercise, talk to God for ... Emotional exercise, sat with my feelings and labeled them as, this and this, and allowed them to be what they were. It was really uncomfortable, but it was awesome. It depends on what I'm currently working on. So right now it's reading, physical exercise, prayer, meditation. It's things like that I'm accountable to for at least, some days it's 5-10 minutes, some days it's more, depending on the exercise. So,
but I think that's really important, because I'm assuming it would have to happen this way. You're showing your most authentic self to your client, right? Yeah. They get all of you and every aspect of you, which I think is a little easier to do in coaching than it is in therapy. But two, it's also like, there's so much motivation behind that, right? For a client to be like, well, if Jordan's doing this, then like, why am I not doing this? Right? Like he's holding to his bargain. I need to hold to mine. You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And what's really cool is when you get clients who, when you get their reactions, when I write something like, was lazy today, we'll have to be better tomorrow. I'm very honest with myself.
Yeah,
like,
we're human.
We are not perfect. We're just not.
Nope. We're not supposed to be.
Right. Perfectly imperfect. So
correct.
I think that's definitely very important. I want to go back to, you said a word that I had written down kind of like as you said it, I was feeling it, and I'm glad you said it. You said the word readiness. And that brings us kind of from like the counseling to the coaching. So what would you say when you say readiness? What are the things you've seen in your clients? What comes to mind if I ask you what makes somebody ready, or how do you get there? How do you know you're ready? You know, questions like that.
I always look at client readiness or readiness to change, right? Any type of situation. It's a recipe. And there's a few things that go into the recipe. And the first thing for the recipe is accountability, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable, or be open-minded to hold ourselves accountable to our own actions. The second piece is we have to be open-minded to change. And that part, I think some people struggle with, right? Because we all love our own thoughts and we love the way we think about things, and that's fantastic. But sometimes it's hard, like, wait a minute, why should I look at this differently, right? Like, we get defensive. We're humans. We're all the same.
I don't get defensive. Don't tell me I get defensive.
Never.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Well, it's another 60 minutes.
Sorry. We'll have a session after. I'll pay you. Go ahead.
With those two things, though, I think people have the ability to be then ready. I also think with coaching, and I think coaching's, not that it has a different name or a different stigma. I think there is more of a stigma to therapy than there is to coaching.
Yeah.
But I think it excites people in a different way. You know what I mean? I think it's an exciting, like, oh, I'm going to go talk to my coach today. You know what I mean? Like, there is a swag about it that I think people really like and people enjoy. But I also think it kind of affirms them of like, no, this is like, I'm ready to do this now. Today, I'm ready to do this. And I think anybody who works with a life coach, I think all life coaches really, it's like, okay, what can we do today? Right? Like, what direct action are we taking today? Like, it is very much matched with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. So when I think, you know, to simplify and go back, I was taking some notes while you were talking because you're so darn insightful.
Oh my God. Thanks.
Right? Oh my God.
I'm flattered.
As you slip me a $5 bill through the screen somehow.
Right. Say another one.
Right. Slip me another $5 bill and I will. Readiness. So you said the word, you know, it sounds like open to change comes first, and then, you know, prepared for accountability, open to change and open to accountability. There's something I want to add, almost a foundational component underneath those two. And feel free to disagree with me, of course, even though of course you're wrong and I'm right, but feel free to disagree.
Well, I think we did that.
Such self-awareness. Carry on.
That awareness is just bleeding off of you.
For me, that openness to change, right? The readiness to say like, oh shit, I gotta change. It doesn't come without an immense amount of pain. And that's
you need pain.
So that's what I would say. So that would be the component I add to the readiness factor. You've already been through enough pain that you're done. You're done feeling. You're done feeling the pain. You're done going through the same patterns, the same cycles, the pain you're in, whatever it might be. It's just, you know, no more. I deserve better.
Yeah. And I term that turning pain into power, because I think pain is power. And I think pain, and we'll probably have a whole episode on this, but I think pain is needed and pain is required in order for us to make lasting change, right? Like, lasting change doesn't happen on easy street. It just doesn't. No, it does not. Not much change does. That's for sure. Although I will highlight that, you know, I think there's a bit of a stigma with personal growth and change that it has to be painful. It doesn't. It doesn't. No. It is uncomfortable. No. It can be uncomfortable. Correct. And it does come with its moments of like, I mean, the best I could put it, you know, like imagine you're like crawling through mud and your fingernails are like digging into the dirt and it's gritty like that. Like there's that type of pain, but that type of pain is different than me stabbing myself in the leg. You know, for lack of a better, you know, like
like this. No, but like
We're really changing the show here.
Yeah. That might have been a bit extreme, but in hindsight, I immediately regret my statement. But I think I like that.
No, I agree. And I think it's also frustrating. Change is frustrating. It's a frustrating process to have to change and to want to change because it can be hard. It's difficult. Yeah. We are programmed individuals, right? We do the same thing the same way pretty consistently. And then to say like, wait a minute, you've been doing that your whole life, but now you're going to do it differently. It's like, says who? I don't want to do it differently, right? That's one person. Or it's like, maybe, but that's scary. I don't know if I want to do that. There's so many factors that come into it, but frustration is definitely one of them. And I think some frustration is healthy and it's good and it's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at frustration as resistance, similar to something like that. And, it's, it can be very annoying. It can be very obnoxious.
Yeah. I agree.
But it doesn't have to be. I guess that's the thing I've learned to stay pretty grounded amidst frustration. But it took an immense amount of pain in my lifetime to learn how to do that. To really be secure in the fact that like, oh, I can bear this weight. I can bear this pain. Whereas most people, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think most people are not secure in the fact that like they know they can bear an immense amount of pain and they'll be okay. So
there's a trust too. I don't want to say a lot of people, reverse. I think some people don't trust their own abilities or even know what their own abilities are.
Right.
That they're like, well, if I do that, right, if I actually feel what I'm supposed to be feeling right now, I won't make it out of that. And like, again, feelings, they're not constants. They pass like clouds, right? They come and go, and that's kind of the day to day, and we all share them.
Right.
However, we don't get stuck there. And I think a lot of people have that fear of like, well, if I uncover the box, right, if I open up this big, scary boogeyman, I'm never getting out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what's wild about that is like you're here. You made it this far. So clearly you've made it through all the other pain. What makes you think you can't bear this one? So it is. It's like you say, trust. And
correct.
Like on the other end of that spectrum is just immense self-doubt that I cannot bear this. I can't get through this. I can't handle this. And it's a very real thing.
Yeah.
It's a very real thing. We promised ourselves we'd start slowing down after like 20, 25 minutes. We're at about the 25-minute point, and I am just tired of listening. Yeah, I'm tired of listening to myself talk. I don't know about you, but...
Yeah, I'm tired of listening to you talk too.
Oh my goodness. And you've been deleted. I'm currently the one hosting the meeting. Bye-bye. Woo! Boy, she was rough, huh? Everybody? Oh, shoot, I didn't actually delete it. No. But, I think, what's cool is we've come up with some really cool ideas for some things to discuss, next episode, the episode after. You mentioned stigma. I want to highlight that before we leave. And I have found the same thing that, when I tell people I'm a therapist or I'm a psychoanalyst or I'm a mental health counselor, right? I have a private practice. Mm-hmm. Anyone I say that to, let's say I'm at a party and I'm talking to some random person. Their response is, "Oh God, are you analyzing me already? Are you like tell me I'm tell me all the issues I have. Mm-hmm. I know I'm paranoid. I know. You don't have to tell me how neurotic I am." Like someone always makes a comment. There's immediate insecurity once you say that.
There is.
And rightly so, because I'm judging them so much. No, I'm kidding. But
correct. And I always say to Ron, and I don't sugarcoat this conversation, and still I don't. When people say like, "What do you do for work?" And I'd be like, when I was a therapist, I'd be like, "I'm a domestic violence and sexual assault therapist," and people are like, "See you later."
Right.
Right. It is a immediate like mood changer. And Ron's like, "Why don't you like dumb that down a little? Like, don't make it." I'm like, "Oh no, I like the uncomfortability, like because that's how you break a stigma."
Right.
But it's going to take more than just that, obviously, to break it.
Yeah, and you're comfortable with who you are, so you can say it without hesitation.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, too, who's listening, Ron is your life partner and your business partner. Yes. Unleash Potential. Yes. Yeah, he's a big part of it. We'll get him in on an episode, I'm sure.
I was just going to say, I'm sure he'll join us at some point.
Yeah, and we'll rag on him like we do each other. And and the difference, so with that versus coaching, I tell people, I call myself an alignment coach, and immediately they're intrigued. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, is that like a life coach? Or so, and there's no negative association or negative connotation of the term life coach. It's curiosity. Alignment coach, what's that? And it's, in a nutshell, aligning with the best version of you, aligning with the greatest vision you could ever have of your life and yourself, right? In thought, word, deed, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically aligned. And, people, ooh, I like that. Oh, that's cool. Oh, really? What kind of people do you work with? Oh, do you do motivationals? Oh, do you have a book? I feel like so many coaches have written books. There's so much curiosity as opposed to insecurity.
Yep.
And that's, and it's a little sad because there's so many great counselors out there too. And you and I both did such great work with so many people. We worked with so many good people, plug for Transformations Counseling in Hauppauge, New York. We love you. We love them. Such good work. So many good people. So, it's that stigma. I just wanted to highlight that before we finish because it's something that, we definitely both experience, I'm sure. Plenty. So.
Yeah. I agree.
Final thoughts, rude remarks, anything?
I'm going to save you on the rude remarks. I'll get you next time. Final thoughts. No, I think this is exciting. I hope people watching feel the same excitement that you and I have and the same passion that you and I have for talking about some of these topics that we're going to dive into.
Right.
I think it's about awareness. I think there's so much knowledge that together you and I share that we could just kind of spread to the world. And listen, if one person watches this and takes something from it, then you and I succeeded here.
Totally. And my favorite thing about what we're doing is, I know you are somebody who you've been through pain. You've been through change. You've healed. You've grown. You don't just walk it. I know that you don't just talk it. You walk it. And I know I don't just talk it.
I appreciate it.
I've been forced to walk it. For what it's worth.
We're cut from the same cloth in that.
Yeah. But for some time, I was someone who just talked it. And
me too. Me too. Definitely.
And aligning my walk with my talk is what has led me to create a business based on alignment because I know the difference, that empowered, peaceful, grounded feeling in myself. I want to spread that. I want people to have that.
I agree.
So
I agree. Well said.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Until next time. Yeah.
We believe in you, whether you do or not. All right.